That yes means no more excuses, no more crutches. I'm putting the crutch down. I'm saying I don't need this. Well, okay, check. Let's rewind on that. I don't want this anymore. Forget the need. I don't want this anymore. When we don't want something anymore, now the effort becomes real. The effort becomes something that is internally driven versus externally pushed. Now I can say, look, my ankle's hurting right now. My leg's hurting right now. But I'm going to put my hands down and scoop myself up. I'm going to scratch and I'm going to scrape until I can get up. And even if I stumble and fall, I'm going to pick myself back up. I am willing and ready now to go through the process. I'm ready to process those experiences. I'm ready to cry. Listen to me, fellas. I'm ready to cry. I'm ready to let those tears flow. I'm ready to feel the pain. I'm ready to apologize to that person. I'm ready to receive the apology from that other person. I'm ready now to start facing the reality that no one else around me has the power to lift me up like God has given me. What's up, everybody? This is your host, Coach Moon, and welcome back to the 150 podcast. On this podcast, we do not aim for surface level change. We're going beneath the surface. We're also going above the ceiling that society or whatever system around us creates for us to live in. We're coming outside of the box. That's what this podcast is about. Today is no different. Today, what we're going to be focusing on is that one thing that keeps most men stuck and in cycles. I got a lot of experience with this one here, y'all, and that is the past, dwelling on the past. I'm not talking about the trauma. I'm not talking about the event. I'm not talking about the mistake. I'm talking about our relationship with it. See, the past can either be a crutch for us or it can be a tool. It can be a tool in a sense where we use it to sharpen ourselves, but it can be a crutch to us in that we lean on our own, check this, y'all, excuses that justifies the behavior, that justifies the thought process, that justifies all of the things that we want to keep into our lives because we're comfortable in whatever dysfunction we've created for ourselves. And we think by being honest that that's the end game. Being honest must mean that I'm good, that I'm okay because I can be transparent. I can talk about the issues that I've struggled with. Not understanding that that is just the beginning. At the end of the day, we are being held hostage, people, by our perception or our mentality on the past. Today, we're going to be breaking the mindset by flipping things. We need to learn how to flip our perspective and stop rehearsing the same cycles over and over again. We're going to talk about how to stop protecting our pain. Most of us protect our pain. And we're also going to talk about how to finally get to the place where we are utilizing our past the way that God intended, not as a prison sentence, but for wisdom. Thanks so much for joining. Let's get to work. How many of us know that God gives us the ability to be free? God has put the capability in every single individual that is alive to become free, not to be bound up by anything that is external to us, or the most important thing that binds us is ourselves. We are the ones that bind ourselves up. It is amazing how many times I have prevented myself from doing something phenomenal because of my own thoughts, not somebody else's thoughts, not what somebody else thought about me, not what somebody else even said about me, but the things that I said and thought about myself. Your past is data. Your past is not destiny. Think about that. Your past is not destiny. Most of us get locked into a mind frame that the decisions that I made in the past literally define my present and my future. Now, for some of us who've made some really detrimental mistakes or decisions in our past, it's not that we don't have to deal with some of the repercussions of the decisions that we made, but to think in our heads as though the decisions, the poor decisions or the mistakes that we've made or the trauma that we went through literally seals the deal, as though there is no way we can come out of the patterns that were created, the negative thinking that was created, the negative framework that we have created. That's wrong. And that is the thing that is keeping us justifying the negative cycles in our lives. So it's like, okay, I wake up in the morning and I go through the same monotonous routine. I go to work, I connect with whomever I'm going to connect with. I come home, I do what I have to do with my family. I try to, have pleasure, the things that's going to satisfy me on a level that makes me think that life is normal. Yup. And then we do that same thing all over again. The next day, the next day, the next day. And then we have these in-betweens. We have these moments where there's birthday celebrations or there's holidays or there's the weekend. And it's like these highlights, and the highlights become those things that we look forward to because it gives us almost like a spike of emotion or a spike of satisfaction that says, okay, these are the things that make me feel like, again, life is normal. When things happen, when catastrophic events happen, whether it's our emotions crashing, young people use this word crashing out now. We crash out where, we lose control of our emotions and we lash out on people. We attack people. We start tripping and bugging out mentally on ourselves, and we start to self-medicate, and we do all those destructive things. It's like it creates fluctuation within this idea of what is normalcy in my life, what is normal in my life. And after the crash out is always the time where when we start to reevaluate, we're like, man, like what is going on? Like, why do I crash out periodically the way that I do? It's like everything is going fine. I'm looking forward to things going well in my life, and they do. I have these moments where it's like everything is good, or the roller coaster is steady, and then it's going up, and then it goes all the way up. And by the time it gets to the top, I'm still feeling that adrenaline of like everything is good. And then all of a sudden it just goes down and around, and all these, I lose control. And when I lose control, I literally lose control, where I feel like I do not have control over my emotions. I get so upset with the people around me. I get up. And the main reason why is because we're upset with ourselves. That's really what's going on. We're upset with the conditions that we have created for ourselves, and we do not know how to articulate it. We do not know how to deal with those things. And so now we start practicing self-destructive behavior. Most of it is because, again, we treat our past like destiny. This happened to me. That happened to me. These things happened to me. This person did something to me, or I did something to this other person. And we wrestle with those things inside of our head, rightfully so. When you have traumatic events in your past, I mean, we're not going to act like we're robots and act like, okay, these things did not affect our spiritual foundation, because they do, and they have. But because we look at it as destiny, that this is it's almost like the cement. When it's laid, it's now hard, and that's it. That's a wrap. The truth is, as soon as we start looking at our past as a teacher, that's the beginning of our process, because it is a process. It is not an overnight scenario, bang, and everything is just going to start working out as soon as you do. No, as soon as you start doing, no, it takes time. It's depending on how much stress and trauma the past has created for you in your life, what type of decisions you made in your past, and how can you overcome, or how can you, recover from the things that happened in your past. But the bottom line is this: when we start treating our past like data, now we get to see the patterns. We get to now start to extract patterns. And this is where that deep work comes in. Deep work comes in when we start to ask ourselves questions. So I just crashed out the other day. Well, I crashed out over the weekend. I had a great week. I went to work. I was cool with everybody around me. There was no, trauma. There was no issues. There was no drama. It was a good week. Then I get into the weekend, and it's, of course, that mindset for everybody. Hey, it's the weekend. Let's go. You get into the weekend, and then I start having fun. I start doing some of the things that make me feel satisfied. And then all of a sudden, somewhere along the line, I have a crash, a meltdown. Whether it could be I can be around people that, once made me feel comfortable. They don't make me feel comfortable for whatever reason that I do not investigate. And then I lash out on somebody, or somebody says something that triggers something inside of me, triggers an emotion. It triggers a past connection with something in my past. And I lash out and I crack, whether it's I'm drinking, whether it's, I'm intoxicated with anger. Whether it's I'm intoxicated with lust, or I'm intoxicated with sadness and depression. All of these different mechanisms we have this connection to, and we never do the investigation to figure out, where does this come from? We don't even ask the questions or allow anybody else to ask those questions in our lives. When we treat our past like it's our destiny, then it's easy to confuse our identity with our history. As if the bad decisions that I've made in my life can never be overcome. And most of this is subconscious. It's not even conscious. Most of this is not somebody even telling you and saying certain things, or, trying to identify certain things that's connected to your past. No, most of it is self-inflicted. Most of it is us telling ourselves subconsciously that I'm never going to be worthy. I'm never going to add up. I'm never going to make it. I'm always going to be defined. I'm always going to be judged or connected to the stupid, dumb decisions that I've made in the past, or what somebody else did to me in the past. We lock ourselves into that. I can remember many times for myself where I would look at the relationships that I've been in, and I'm talking about relationship between a man and a woman, and I would subconsciously train myself to believe that I'm never going to be in a healthy relationship, that every relationship that I ever have is going to be defined by the crazy mistakes that I've made, or not just the mistakes, but the crazy relationships that I've been in. It's as if we self-sabotage anything that could actually be better or good for us. And so I've found myself getting into relationships after very toxic relationships. And even though they didn't start off toxic, they became toxic. It was as if there was, I was looking at my history or the patterns in my history as a prophecy or something. Like, it has to happen. It has to turn out the way in which it was from the past. The truth is, that is a lie. It's a complete lie that the enemy, which a lot of times is ourselves, try to teach us. It's like these patterns that we get in where we self-destruct when, there can be something really beautiful in front of us. And we self-destruct because we don't know how to deal with the behind the scenes. What's happening behind the scenes? We don't ask questions about why we respond the way we respond. We don't ask questions. And we live in these patterns that literally take everything that we work for. It's like, okay, I'm going to build this house. We start with the foundation, we start building, and we get to the first floor, we get to the second floor, we get to the third floor, and we excited. Yeah, I'm building. And then we tear it all down just to fit this mental, spiritual condition that tells us that we're not worthy of anything opposite of our past. That's how, okay, now I may say this, and I've heard things like this before in books that I read, podcasts I listen to, and the whole nine. And I've denied this in my own life because I've gotten so comfortable with the patterns being associated with my life. It's like we get addicted to dysfunction. I know it sounds crazy, but it's the truth. And the truth of the matter is, until we get to the point where we understand that our past is not our destiny, it's not our final destination, that we can actually break the patterns, we can break the cycles, then we're going to stay in those cycles. We have to look at our past as data. We got to, what do you do with data? You analyze it. You ask questions. Why is this that? Because yes, we're looking at historical information. Yep, we can go back and look at timestamps, and we can look at, the environment that it happened in. We can look at all of the various things, which we generally do, but we treat it so much like destiny that, again, it follows us. Versus data saying, okay, this happened then. Why? Why do I now perform certain things like this in connection with that? So for me, being in toxic relationships was as if, it was almost like, I believed that was the only thing that I was capable of. Maybe there's something wrong in my maturity level. Maybe there's something going on inside of my head, or some space that even goes further back into the relationships that I saw around me. Now, if we're looking at patterns, we can get a little bit more honest about where a lot of this stuff comes from. It may not have even come from the relationship that I was in. It may have come from some of the relationships that I saw modeled around me that were toxic as well. And now when I can do that, now it becomes more of a place that empowers us. Because, again, it's not so much of acknowledging what happened. It's being able to say, okay, I acknowledge it, but how do I deal with this now? Okay, I can see now that the source of it is totally different than where I thought it was. So it's literally like putting the puzzle together of your own life. Like you got all these puzzle pieces that's on the table, and like figuring out which one goes where and making sense of things as you put the puzzle together. This is the starting point for us, y'all. We have to get past the point where we're saying, okay, that puzzle that's on the table is not meant to be put together. It's meant to be the way it is. If you know anything about the basics of puzzles, just the fact that a puzzle is something that is supposed to be put together, and we take on that mindset, now we can start putting the pieces back together to all of the stuff that's broken in our lives. Which leads to the next principle: excuses. What are excuses? Excuses are just unprocessed experiences. Okay, I'm gonna say it again. Excuses are just unprocessed experiences. So in order to understand the true depth of how our thinking aligned with the past and us fighting for the pain in our lives, it all corresponds, or it's all connected. We have to learn how to process experiences. Now, this is one of the hardest things that we can do. Because when we are processing experience, that means I'm going to stop. I'm not going to skip past it real quick because it's uncomfortable. I'm going to stay in it for a minute. I'm going to look at myself. It's almost like one of those movies where they flash back to the past and show a scene from the past, and somebody's looking at a scene from the past and they're doing certain things, and it's just like that. It's literally like, let me go back to the past, take a look at how my past functioned, and it's processing it. Why? Let's look at where my thinking was when I made that decision. Okay. I made a decision to purchase a home that I knew I couldn't afford. Why? Why did I do that? Because I was so excited. But why was I so excited? Because this is not something that I've ever experienced before. Okay. Or the people around me growing up never experienced it as well. So now there's this whole idea that I'm doing something that nobody in my experience has ever done before. So I'm excited about it. I get to now say, yo, look, I've done something that nobody else in my family has done before. But here's the catch. You got the image, but you're going to pay a price because it's something you can't afford. And now years go by and you're like depleted financially and you're depleted emotionally because it wasn't a good decision. And now you're kicking yourself. But the reality is you made the decision because you didn't see somebody in your past do that. And now it becomes this major accomplishment for you. We can attach that to anything, whether it's a relationship, whether it's these goals and dreams that we have. It doesn't matter what it is. We have to start processing things and doing, like I mentioned before, putting the puzzle pieces together, realizing and understanding where these things come from in our lives. Because if we don't, we're going to continue to repeat the same cycles over and over and over again. Here's a quick fact. What we protect is the thing that we are going to repeat. So if we do not process experiences, we're going to continue to repeat that same thing and then experience the same detrimental negative cycles that we have created in our own lives. This right here is where the crutch comes in, because we use this as a crutch to defend. It's like I can lean on this and this is going to, I need this crutch. I gotta have this crutch because I'm hurting right now, or I'm incapable right now, or I'm not able to do something. So I gotta have this crutch to lean on. We justify it now, which means that we never heal. A crutch, it basically depicts something that you lean on because you're incapable of doing something. And we have these crutches in so many areas in our lives, and we justify these crutches in our lives as if we are literally saying that we are never going to heal. It was just like that man at the pool of Bethesda. You have all of these people that's jumping in the water and getting healed. All of them, they're getting healed. And he's watching them. And when the man Yeshua shows up on the scene, when he shows up on the scene, he asked the brother, he said, yo, will you be made whole too? Okay, look, to take a step back, this brother was in this condition for over 20 years. Think of that. 20 years being in a condition, watching everybody else around you get healed, watching it happen. And you're not healed. You're the only one that's not healed. But when the man Yeshua says that to the man turns around and he says, I don't have anybody to put me in the water. And that's another something that happens with us in this process. We have unprocessed experiences, things that we don't process, things that we're not honest and open about. We never start the process of putting a puzzle together. And then the very next thing that we do many times, most of the times, by default, is we start blaming other people. That's one of the easiest things, the easiest scapegoats is to blame somebody else. This person, that person, this person, over there, they did this, they said that, she said this, he said that. It's the easiest thing to do. Now, and I'm not even talking about stuff that's justifiably something you can blame on somebody. But even if then, as it's the same thing, the same principle applies. It all boils down to what the man Yeshua asked the gentleman. He said, will you be made whole? That's what he said. He said, will you be made whole? And that same question applies for us today. Will we be made whole is the question. And if we answer yes, then first, we got to pause and think what yes really means. Yes doesn't mean I'm in the emotion of it right now. I feel like I want to be healed, so I'm just going to blurt out something. No, what it means is it's time to get busy. It's time to work. It's time to put down the excuses. It's time to say no more. Am I going to feel sorry for myself? Or I'm going to be depressed because of things happen in my life that made me that made me anything. It's that yes means no more excuses, no more crutches. I'm putting the crutch down. I'm saying I don't need this. Well, okay, check. Let's rewind on that. I don't want this anymore. Forget the need. I don't want this anymore. Because when we don't want something anymore, now the effort becomes real. The effort becomes something that is internally driven versus externally pushed. Now I can say, look, my ankle's hurting right now. My leg's hurting right now. But I'm going to put my hands down and scoop myself up. I'm going to scratch and I'm going to scrape until I can get up. And even if I stumble and fall, I'm going to pick myself back up. I am willing and ready now to go through the process. I'm ready to process those experiences. I'm ready to cry. Listen to me, fellas. I'm ready to cry. I'm ready to let those tears flow. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to feel the pain. I'm ready to apologize to that person. I'm ready to receive the apology from that other person. I'm ready now to start facing the reality that no one else around me has the power to lift me up like God has given me. Man, heavy conversation. Yeshua asked my man, are you willing? Will you be made whole? He gave excuses. And instead of diving into all of the other people, Yeshua turned around and looked at my man and he said, rise up, pick up your bed and walk. He gave him instructions, clear instructions. He said, rise up, pick up your bed. He said, work is what he said. Put your work in. We as men will start stepping into the places that God wants us to be, where not only are we empowered, but the people around us become empowered. When we understand that we got to work. Nobody's just going to come and give it to us. Nobody's just going to come and say, hey, let me give you a 6-figure job because you just look handsome. Let me take care of all your bills. I'll knock all your bills out for you and, give you money so you can, be good to go. And, let me, be the relationship that you need. Let me just jump into and heal you just by being around you on a consistent basis, dealing with all the stuff you got to deal. No. Nobody is going to come through and just make something happen for us. We have to make that decision ourselves. We cannot afford to stay in this place that keeps us in cycles. There's a calling on our lives, gentlemen, brothers. There's a calling on your life. Take a pause for a second. Whatever you're doing, if you're driving, pull over to the side of the road. If you're listening on a treadmill, step off the treadmill. I don't care what you're doing. Take a pause for a second and make a decision right now that it's just not an emotional yes that you're giving, but you're ready to put that work in. You're ready to stop making excuses. You're ready to put those crutches down. Stop leaning on excuses. Yup, they may have done it, but so what? Because our past is not our destiny. We got a whole future ahead of us. Young brother out there, you got a whole future ahead of you. You got all of these beautiful things that God has planned for your life and your family's life. You just got to get out of your own way. You got to close the door on all of the stinking thinking, the bull crap thought processes that we create for ourselves. You got to realize that you got a key in your hand that is given to you by the creator of everything. And he's telling you to open your hand, pick up that key, and unlock the prison cell that you put yourself in. We have way more power than we know, but we have to be willing to put the work in. We have to rename it. We got to rename stuff. We keep calling stuff trauma. We keep calling stuff drama and all the other things. There may be some truth to that, but we have to be a little crazy, a little delirious if we want to get out of some of the cycles that we've been stuck in for years. Once we start calling it excuses, then it gives a different ring to it. It's almost like instruction. And when we stop, nothing else can stop us. It won't be able to stop us. God has given us that type of authority where it won't be able to stop you. It may be hard. Yup. It may take some time. Yup. But it's something that we are willing and ready to do because we renamed it. We named it something else. What you name it is what it will be. What are you naming it today? What are we naming it, y'all? Which then opens up a world of possibilities. Which then opens up accountability in a new way. Accountability doesn't become a curse word at this point. Accountability becomes a prerequisite in our heads for us to get to the next level. Accountability. Accountability doesn't become more of a punishment. Accountability becomes beautiful. It becomes necessary for us to hold ourselves accountable. We got to kill excuses if we ever want to be free. My wife generally will make fun of me sometimes because I'm so analytical. A lot of times I will be looking at something and the origins of something so deeply that I can't even enjoy what's in front of me. And that has become a mindset over the years where whenever I would approach something, it would always be approaching it from a negative perspective. And I wasn't even seeing it as a negative perspective. And that thing began to spread all around my life. It began to spread. We were driving up the street one day and it was around fall time and it was a bunch of leaves falling off of this tree and petals from these roses that was growing on the tree. And the front yard was like littered with, I was like, and we're driving by, my wife's sitting in the passenger seat and I'm saying, man, somebody got a big job to clean up. And my wife giggles and she says, that's a beautiful tree. And I paused for a second. I looked up and I said, Dad, you're right. That is a beautiful tree. Sometimes we can get in our own way. Sometimes we can train ourselves to miss the beauty that's right in front of us. Sometimes we can miss the opportunities even in the places that we consider negative or bad or horrible. Nope. Deplorable. I don't like this. I don't like the way this feels. Do you know what it is? I don't like the way, somebody said something, or somebody did something. I don't like the environment that I'm in and all of this, that. Yup, I'm frustrated because that's all you see. You don't see anything else. And the reason why you don't see anything else is because you don't name it anything else. I'm frustrated. There you go. You're going to become what you say. I'm angry. I'm upset. There you go. You're going to become what you say. Once we start changing our vocabulary, once we start changing the things that we simply say, when we start saying them, that's the beginning. It ain't the end all be all. This is not some motivational speech that I'm trying to give to try to make you feel good about the scenario. No, it's going to be work. This is one part of it. Naming it is one part of it. There's another part of it, which is naming it so consistently that then becomes your default. When you start renaming things, then you start reclaiming things. The claiming process, which is basically saying something that I do not have that I know that I need, I want to get to that space of freedom. I want to get to that space where I'm no longer frustrated. I want to get to the place where I'm no longer anxious about the stuff that's happening around me. I want to get to the place where I'm not looking at my past as though it's my destiny. You got to claim it. And the claiming process takes practice, as with anything else. It takes practice. It takes someone to do this consistently enough for it to become a habit. We created all these bad habits around us by naming it all of the negative stuff. By having unprocessed experiences around us, we're not processing things. And then we expect for things to just change. I think it goes without question to know that it takes work in order to grow. It takes work for breakthrough, y'all. It's easy to be on the surface. The more we're on the surface, the more we're going to go through cycles. And what I mean by the surface is we're not going deep. We're not investigating. Or another word I love to use is interrogating, asking questions, and really looking for answers. Not so that we can use them to protect our pain, use them to protect these cycles that we've created in our lives, use them to now defend the pain and the hurt and the suffering. But we start using the interrogation as a starting point on the road to recovery, the road to healing, true road to healing. Fellas, you might got to cry. You might have to let some stuff go. But it all boils down to the question of, what do you really want? I know for me, I want freedom. And I have been able to practice a lot of the things that I'm talking about right now, and I see the results, but I ain't done. I don't think any of us will ever be done until it's time for us to transition to the other side. But at the end of the day, I'm not done. And that's another thing. It doesn't matter where you are in your road to recovery or, in life. You could be very successful externally and very broken internally. This is a message for everyone. I don't care what it looks like on the outside. We're talking about we talking spirit man work. We talking that work where, these are the things that we don't want to talk about. We don't really want to share. We don't want to be vulnerable in these areas because it makes us feel less than. This is the type of work I'm talking about. We got to be straight with it, y'all. We got to be real with it. And I really believe that God will give us all the ability. God has given us all the ability to start this journey. Yeah. I definitely have a whole lot more to say about this, but I'm going to stop right now because I've already talked for a very long time. Here is the challenge. The challenge is for us to look ourselves square dead in the eyes and to be completely transparent with ourselves and to acknowledge the mistakes that we've made, to acknowledge the trauma and drama that we've experienced in our lives, but not use them as crutches for us to hold on to the dysfunction, the dysfunctional cycles that we put ourselves in. Most of the enemy that exists in society today is the enemy within ourselves. Man, that's definitely going to be another podcast, the enemy from within. But if we can ever start seeing the enemy from within and start fighting with the right tools, then we can break free, y'all. So listen, I appreciate y'all jumping on this podcast today. Definitely would love to hear your comments. I'd love to hear your experiences. If you've experienced anything in reference to what I'm talking about right now, or if you find yourself in cycles that you feel like you are never going to get out of. If any of this resonated with you, I definitely want to hear back from you. I also want to share that we are starting a men's group. It's going to be virtual first, but then it's going to be physical as well for those of us that can meet, where we're going to chop stuff up like this. And it's not going to be a one person talking to everyone else. It's going to be all of us talking about these issues. Because one of the things that I do notice is that when you put yourself around brothers who are truly about development and growth and being better and, just healing, that you will learn something that you probably didn't know. You will gain something out of it that I think is beautiful. So you can hit me up. I will be sharing the information soon with everyone. It's going to be a virtual session from the beginning where we're just going to chop it up online. But then we're also going to meet. We're going to hit some coffee shops up. We're going to hit some other spots up and, try to connect, exchange numbers, pray for, each other. Link with each other as much as possible, because it's a process, and it's always a beautiful thing when you have a company, with you. When I was in the military, it was a beautiful thing when everybody went to attention at the same time, or when everybody's jogging and, drill sergeant's giving the cadence and, we going to it at the same time. Everybody doing it at the same time. It just gives you that extra momentum to move forward. So, link in, definitely want you to link in, young and old alike. It's not just about older people. It's about younger people too, because younger people struggle and younger people become older people. That's just what it is. And so making that connection, I think, will be a beautiful thing. Again, thank you all so much for listening, joining us. This is, again, the 150, and y'all know how I rock out. I rock out the same way every single time. Live 150. Live 150. Love y'all. Talk to y'all next time.